An inheritance should make your life easier, but one wrong move can have you handing over a big chunk of money to taxes, and most of that is avoidable. No fraud, no market crash, no bad investments. The money sits in a perfectly ordinary account, and on paper, everything looks fine. But the longer you wait, the bigger the tax bill you're building for yourself. Most people think that a 10-year deadline means there's nothing to do until year 10. By the time you take all your money out, it's too late to change it, and it's going to cost you. I'm Eric, and this is Retirement Simplified. Here's the rule, and it's the simplest part. What you do with it determines your income tax bill. The 10-year rule says when you inherit a traditional IRA, the entire account must be withdrawn within 10 years of the original owner's death. It's kind of like moving out of that first apartment. There's definitely a deadline, and that U-Haul and those boxes better be packed up or you're going to be facing stiff fines from your landlord. But unlike that first apartment, we're dealing with much higher stakes when it comes to inherited IRAs. Now, when it comes to that IRA, the deadline is known and the amount of your inheritance is known. You can literally see it online right now. But what's not known, and this is the part that tricks most people up, is the timing. And timing is the whole game here. So I'm going to show you what the rule requires and the trap that catches a lot of people off guard. Two different ways that two siblings handle the exact same inheritance that causes completely different tax bills. So first, let's just get on the same page about who this applies to. When someone passes away and leaves you their IRA, if you're watching this video, you're probably what I would call a non-spouse beneficiary. Spouses of the deceased have a completely different set of options. Spouses, in my opinion, have the best deal. They can elect to treat the inherited IRA as their own, and they just kind of follow the same normal IRA withdrawal rules. No 10-year deadline, nothing like that. For everyone else, adult children, brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, the rules I'm speaking about today are going to apply to you. The entire IRA must be emptied within 10 years of the owner's passing. Every dollar that comes out of that account is going to show up on your income tax return. So if you take a withdrawal right now, it's going to show up on your tax form, which will come out about February or so of next year. Now, there are limited exceptions, and it's usually for people such as minor children, maybe those who are disabled or chronically ill, and a couple others. But for most adult children inheriting money from mom or dad, you're likely going to fall under this 10-year rule. Now, what about the Roth IRA? So if you've inherited a Roth IRA, you still have that same 10-year window, but the tax consequences are different because Roth IRA withdrawals are generally income tax free. But today, we're discussing traditional inherited IRA, where every single withdrawal counts as income. Now, I've noticed one thing that trips up a lot of people, and that's taking the money out of the IRA doesn't mean that you have to spend it. The money just needs to come out of the IRA. So you could spend it, maybe pay off your own debt, send a kid to college, or you could just move that money straight into a different type of an account and keep it invested. The rule only cares that the money comes out. What you do with it afterwards is completely up to you. So keep it going and reinvest it or spend it. That part really doesn't matter when it comes to income taxes. And within that 10-year window, you have so much flexibility about when you pull that money out. So you could take it out, spread it out evenly, maybe take out more the first year, maybe take out nothing and take it all out then. You know the amount that needs to come out. It's the whole thing. And you know the deadline. So now that you know the rule, what would I do? Well, most of the people I work with that find themselves in this situation kind of lean towards spreading the withdrawals out over the next 10 years rather than just taking everything all out at once. The reason is simple. If you take everything out in one shot, that income is going to show up on a single tax return on top of whatever other income you have going on for that year. So on a large withdrawal, that income tax could be significant. So that's a starting point that I use for most people, again, which is just to spread it out. Now, there might be years where it makes sense to take out more, and there are definitely going to be years where it makes sense to take out less. There could be a year where maybe you lost your job or you retired. Your income is definitely going to drop in those years. There might be a year where your spouse passes away and your filing status is going to shift. or any year where your income is unusually low for some reason, that would mean that inherited IRA withdrawals during those years are going to cost you less in income taxes than they normally would. So spreading it out doesn't mean that you just put it on autopilot and forget about it. These are all situations where the math changes. Sometimes that math changes a lot. There's also something else worth watching, and that's the income tax rates themselves. Those could change. So if you suspect that maybe your own tax rates or your own deductions, or maybe just tax rates in general, are headed up higher down the road, that could be a reason to pull money out sooner rather than later, even though it cuts against that spread it all out point of view that I expressed earlier. The right answer really does depend on your own numbers. The person who pays attention to these years and adjusts, they're going to end up in a very different place than the one who just sets this thing up on autopilot. Let me make this concrete. Picture two siblings who inherit the exact same amount of money in their traditional IRA from mom or dad. So they're getting the same amount. They're bound by that same 10-year rule. The only difference is, well, obviously, they're two different people. So their financial lives are going to be completely different. And of course, that's going to change the entire direction of this conversation. Let's start with the son first. He's in his mid-50s and he's working, earning a high salary. His instinct is just to leave the account alone and watch it grow, which probably feels like the right move. But every dollar inside of that inherited IRA is his future income on a countdown. And because he's still working, every dollar that eventually comes out gets stacked on top of his already high salary, and nobody wants to move into a higher tax bracket. So if he waits until the deadline forces his hand, that whole account may come out during his peak earning year, taxed at the highest rate he'll ever pay. Now, for him, the smarter approach may be to do the opposite of his instinct. Take out a little bit or nothing now, and maybe accelerate it later after he retires and his income drops. Additionally, now, if he starts taking those inherited IRA withdrawals, he may decide to change his 401k contributions. So let's say he's contributing after tax to his 401k right now. He may want to flip his 401k contributions to pre-tax, and that would offset this new taxable income from the inherited IRA. Or maybe he's not completely maxing out his 401k. This would give him a strong incentive to start. Now, his sister, the daughter, she's in a completely different life situation. She's in her early 60s. She recently retired, but she's not planning to start her Social Security until her full retirement age, which is 67. That gap is everything. Right now, her taxable income is low, but at age 67, it's going to jump when Social Security starts, and it's going to stay higher for the rest of her life. So the years before 67 is possibly some of the cheapest years that she'll have tax-wise to take money out of this inherited IRA. Remember, just like her brother, she only gets 10 years. So it's not like she can forecast what's going to happen with income taxes in Social Security for the rest of her life. She's got the same 10-year window, just like everybody else. So her move right now is to prioritize those low-income years and to take out more now before Social Security starts, specifically so she's not forced to empty out the account on top of Social Security and face the same problem as her brother. So same inheritance, same rule, just a completely different strategy. The son, who plans to work for at least another 5 or 10 years, he should probably start thinking about taking withdrawals, but not wait until the last minute. The daughter, she may want to accelerate those withdrawals now and ease them off later. So the inheritance rules didn't decide this, their own income timelines did. And that's the part you get to plan around. So what do we do with all of this? Well, the year that you inherit, sit down and map out a strategy. Or maybe you've been told ahead of time, I would do it now. How much is in this inheritance? What's my other income going to look like over the next 10 years? Maybe I'm going to be moving to a different state. Maybe that new state has higher or lower income tax rates than the state I'm in right now. Are there years ahead where your income is naturally going to be lower, where pulling out more now makes sense? Are there years ahead where your income is going to spike, like we saw what happened with the daughter when she started collecting Social Security? What I've seen work with some retirees is to maybe start with a default in mind of just spreading those withdrawals out equally over the next decade, and then think ahead and maybe adjust what life is actually going to look like over that next decade. There might be years where it does make sense to take out more. Maybe there's years where it makes sense to take less. What I would definitely avoid is taking everything out in a lump sum unless you've got a very clear reason to do so. So here's the bottom line. The 10-year rule really isn't about spending. It's a rule about timing. The IRS wants you to empty that account within 10 years, and every single withdrawal lands on your income tax return in that year that you take it. Now, what year and how much that year, that's all completely under your control. And that's really the part that's going to determine how much of this inheritance is going to cost you. Nobody is in a 100% income tax bracket. So what we've been trying to do here is time the withdrawal when your tax rates go on sale. In this case, the discount we're looking for is the years where your income is lower and your overall income tax rate is lower. That's the lesson I think we can learn from these two siblings. The difference wasn't intelligence. The difference wasn't luck. They literally got the same amount of money from their parent. One of them made a timing decision on purpose, and the other would have just let this deadline creep up by default. So make those decisions, or you might be forced into making a decision that you don't like. Imagine being forced to take this entire account out as income, pay taxes on it in 1 year on top of everything else that you have going on income-wise. Nobody in the system, whether it's the custodian or the brokerage company, nobody is required to point this out to you, by the way. The plan should be made immediately when you inherit the money, not in year 9.99. So if you've just inherited an IRA, or maybe you're going to someday, that's the move. Map it out now. Don't wait to the last minute. Thanks so much for being here today. This is Retirement Simplified. I'll catch you at the next one.